Good morning. Welcome to another Theory Thursday. Today we're going over a huge concept, the caged system. Now this is a huge concept because it's how you can map out the fretboard using shapes that you probably already know. It's in the name of the concept, CAGED, C-A-G-E-D. All those chords you can move up and down the fretboard. And it's how I learned. It's how a lot of people have learned. It's a great way to visualize what you're trying to play. Now, like I said, it's a huge concept, and today we're just going over diagrams, drawings, and the theory behind it. I'm not actually going to be playing it on the guitar because it's such a big concept to go over. We just don't have time for it in one video anyway. So keep that in mind. This is something you can use. First of all, just to learn your chord shapes. Excellent for that. But also, it helps with creating solo arrangements. If you know you need the third of a chord on top of a chord, well, which shape can you use? You can know right away, well, if I use the C shape or the D shape, both of those shapes have the third of the chord on top, so you can move it wherever you need to go, right? So, and it helps with improvising and soloing. If you're trying to stay out of the bass player's way, out of the piano player's way, and you just need to stay on one section of the guitar neck, right? How many chords can you play in that one spot? Probably a lot of them. You just have to know what shapes to use, okay? So that's what we're going over today. Huge concept, but it's a great theory to go over. So today I got my Timex Weekender on, the black band, the white bass. And this is a new tie, actually. It's got a little texture to it. Maybe I'll get up close and you can see it. But I really like it. So it's a new tie, and yeah, you can never have enough black ties. So anyway, that's what we're going over today. Caged system. Let's go. Welcome back to the whiteboard. Today we're briefly going over, there's no way I can go fully in depth on just a short video like this, but briefly going over the caged system. What is it? How do you use it? Is it right for you to learn? This is something that's specific to the guitar, and it is how I learned how to map out the fretboard, and it really helps with chord shapes and learning what chord tones are in each chord and where they are, so that you're able to build your own chords and figure out where you are. And it also helps with soloing, especially if you're in the jazz realm, staying in one area of the neck, because you'll be able to play all the chords you need to just in one area instead of going up, down, up, down, up, down with whatever knowledge you have. So, what is it? The caged system. The caged system is a way to map out the fretboard and learn how to play the same chord in different locations. Same chord, just different shapes, different locations on the fretboard, okay? So, and it gets its name because these are the chord shapes that we're gonna be using, okay? Now, when I say chord shapes, when you see a C chord on a piece of music, first thing you should think of is this right here. Okay? That's a C chord. It's what we'd call a cowboy chord. It's also what we would call an open chord. Why is it called that? Because when you play this G string and the E string are played open. Okay? So that's what we call a root position C chord. Now, when you see an A chord, you would think, okay, we'll put 3 fingers in the 2nd fret and play an A chord, okay? We can move this. So, let's do this. When you see A, there's a shape you can do, and it could be like this. Okay? That is a C chord. You would bar across this using the A shape, right? You see this A shape right here. There's the A. Okay? And we're just moving it up 1, 2, 3, 4 frets, and we hit a C. Okay? What comes next? G. Switch colors. Goes my marker. Okay. Now when you see G, you're probably thinking this. Right? That's a root position, G chord, open chord, because all these notes. You can actually bring it up, bar it, and play it up the neck. Now I'll explain all this once we get to the end of this. Where are we going? Green? Okay, E. Where are we at? Okay, and then finally, actually I missed one, I need one more fret here. I was thinking major 7. There you go. Okay. Okay. And maybe I should write these out too, just so you have them. Okay, so the chords are a little out of order, but caged. Now let's explain this. Okay, everything I wrote here is a C chord. So when you see C, you think of this. Okay? All of these, C, A, G, E, D, all of these, C, A, G, E, D, are shapes you can move up the fretboard. Okay? And it goes in this order, caged. Okay, so if I wanted to play a C chord using the A shape, well, I know here's my C. So using our root note here, C, you can build, right? Look at the blue. Build an A shape, and with your root note here, it's a C chord. Okay, what's next? G. When you think of G, you think of this, right? Well, move that up to the 8th fret. That's a C right there. That's a C chord using the G shape. Okay, now this is one. A and E are the most common bar chords here. When you see E, you think of this. You can move this up, and this is the first shape that people usually learn, because if you move this up 1 fret and you put a bar, you get an F chord. Of course, when people are learning guitar, especially if they just want to learn how to play rhythm, you know, sitting around the campfire, first key you're going to learn is G, and then you're going to move into C, because that's where the next big chord is, F. Right, so this chord, this bar chord, you can move up, and if you move it all the way up to the 8th fret here, we already know this is a C because we used it in our G shape. Put a bar across the whole thing and use your E shape. Look at the green. And then finally, probably the least common chord is the D shape. Okay? Move it all the way up. You have an E, you have a C, you have a G, and then a C in the bass. Okay? So this looks confusing, but if you put it on the fretboard, it becomes a lot easier. And what this really helps with is if you know what notes are in your chord, you'll know what chord to use in a specific situation. For example, if I am playing a piece of music and it says play a C chord and we want the C note to be on the very top of the chord. Well, you can't play this. You can't play this one because what's at the top of the chord? An E, the third. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, which one of these shapes has the root at the very top? Well, there's two. If you play a G chord, that's a G, that's a root. If you play an E chord, very top note, that's an E, that's a root note. So if I wanted to play a C with a C on the very top of the chord, I could play, look at the red, that's your G shape, or look at the green, C on top, that's an E shape. Okay, so this really, really comes in handy when you start making arrangements for yourself. If you're playing solo guitar, you're trying to read music, and you're seeing, for example, maybe you want the third of the chord on top. Okay, which one of these shapes has the third of the chord on top? Well, there's two, right? There's the C shape, because it's C, E, G. E is on top with your open string here, okay? Or D. F sharp is on top, which is the third of a D. So if I saw C and the melody note is an E, I can play my regular old C chord, or move it all the way up here. There's an E. Play the blue. Okay? So where this really comes in handy is once you get your scale degrees and where they are in the chord, then you can start building this whole thing. So, for example, let's not use C. Let's use something else. Let's say I see an F chord in a piece of music and we need the third on top. Well, what's in an F chord? F, A, C. I need the third on top, A. So what are my chords here that has the third on top? Well, I know C does, and I know D does. So, okay, so how would you build the shape? We want the A on top, and we're playing an F chord. So let's use red. We know we want A on top, which is going to be right here. Okay? So, there's two ways we could do this. C has the third on top. D has the third on top. So let's look at the D shape first. Okay? And you just spell the shape out. And here's your F. Okay? So what do we have here? We have an F, right? Root. We have a C, fifth. We have another F, another root. And then on top, we have an A, which is the third. Okay? Cool. Now, let's say we used the C shape. Let's use green. Okay, so red is the D shape. We know we want A on top. And how do we spell this out? Next would be, there's your F. You're going to need this there. You're going to have this here. And you're going to have this here. Okay? So what do we have here? We have an F in the root. Next, we have an A, which is the third. Up here, we have a C, which is the fifth. We have another root, which is F. And on top, we have an A, which is the third. So, this is all theory, just drawings and diagrams. It becomes much more clear when you put it on the guitar. Okay? So, like I said, just a very brief overview of what the CAGED system is. Just to recap, all of these letters in the word caged are shapes that you can move up and down the fretboard, as long as you can bar it and know where your root notes are. Okay. The most common that you probably already know are the A and the E shape, right? Especially the E. That's like the first bar chord everyone learns is the E shape. So the advantage on guitar is we can move shapes up and down, just like we can move shapes of scales, we can move shapes of chords. So put it on the fretboard. It'll make a lot more sense, but that's the explanation. That's what it is. It's what I use when I solo, when I'm making solo arrangements, and all that good stuff. So hopefully you learned a little bit of something. I know this is a real quick overview of what it is, but as always, if you have any questions, just put them down in the comments and I'll get to them. I love reading them. So anyway, hopefully you had a good time and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.